Hey guys, Wife here. So you've probably heard me go on and on and on about how wonderful WeakAuras are, and you've also probably heard me go on and on about all the things it can do. And that might have sounded a little bit daunting to you. And then you might have downloaded it anyway and found that the interface is even more daunting and given up. That's exactly what I did the first time I installed WeakAuras. Later on, I decided to start installing strings that I found on forums that looked useful and left it at that. This expansion was the first expansion that I really started messing around with creating my own auras, and it has made me super happy in terms of controlling my UI. You may notice that my UI is not exactly standard. I have all of my buttons down in my viewport, down here in the bottom of my screen, so that they are not taking up valuable real estate where there could be fire that I might be standing in. Also, you'll notice that, my quest log is on the wrong side of my screen, my mini-map is down in the corner. I don't like the standard out-of-the-box UI. It doesn't work for me. So, in the interest of maintaining a UI that is appealing to me, I have started to learn WeakAuras. Now this is just a very basic intro video. I'm not going to get into super complicated stuff because first off, I am no master at this, but secondly, starting with something complicated is just going to be like, oh god, why are we doing this? So WeakAuras is actually very accessible. The scariest part of it is just the sheer number of options you have, but as soon as you realize that you don't need to do all of those things and that you can choose very precisely how things are displayed, when things are displayed, why things are displayed, what things are displayed. Really, all of these options come down to creating a precision custom UI. It really comes down to what information that you want displayed and how you want that information displayed. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up now, and my screen's about to explode because, as it happens, I'm in Boomkin right now, so I have a lot more auras here. That and the fact that I was too lazy to turn off clear casting for not resto. So these are my auras on Nan in Boomkin. These do not display all of my resto auras, just the one that I was too lazy to turn off, which other druids may recognize as the clear casting aura. So this one down here is mine. I did this because, again, I wanted the information to be displayed for me in a different way. When you get an Omen of Clarity proc on a druid, it just pops up this cute pulsing little green ivy thing. Now, you may notice that mine is becoming less opaque, and then it refills, of course, because it's going back to the beginning of its animation cycle. But it becomes less opaque as I lose time on the buff. And that allows me to go, all right, this is how many casts I have left if I am, as I am, currently spec'd into Moments of Clarity. Or it tells me, all right, you gotta fire off a regrowth pretty quick here because you're running out of time. You're gonna lose your proc. Don't be stupid. The much more beautiful and complex aura up here, and also the Star Surge thing down here. These are auras from Raider Chubby Boomy of Dissonance from, I think, Storm Range. I should really just check that, but I'm not. He was kind enough to spend like 15 minutes hanging out in chat and sharing these auras to Pastebin for Meech and I, because these are very complex auras, so they are a little bit more resource intensive, and the game will not allow you to send them from client to client. You have to import them. So if you have an aura from an outside source, whether it was something that was just too large to send via the client or something that you found on a forum, you're going to click this import option down at the very bottom. It'll pop up this blank window. You paste your information, hit Control V, into this box. You hit done, and it'll pop up a little window down here to confirm that you are importing this stuff. You hit the little import button. It'll show you the progress towards the import, And then when it's done, you'll have a fancy new aura that you can then customize if you still need to. For instance, I moved Chubby Boomy's stuff up because I don't like it to be in the center of my screen, and I don't like it to be underneath because that's where my voodoo will come up, because obviously I'm not in a party right now, but this will come out to be much larger with a full raid group. So I like to keep that space clear for voodoo. Up here in the upper right is a somewhat more simple looking, but still rather complex aura that I downloaded from Crazy Ito. He has a WeakAuras thread on the Icy Veins forums that was incredibly useful. What it does is it will track the number of combat resurrects your group has, the time until the next one, and who has battle resed whom. Super handy. But it's also very small, so it's much easier to send. So if I were to be partied up, or trying to send something to a guildie, or even just talking to one of my friends in Whispers, all I have to do is I go over to the nav here, and this is called Res Monitor, so I would shift-click Res Monitor, and it would send it through the chat, and it would show up as the add-on, my name, and which aura I'm sending. Super simple. So we're not going to get into all the rest of these options today, but realize that these are all basic aura types. So you pick one thing from this list, and then you get into customizing it. So what we're going to choose from the list today is Icon. We're going to make a very simple little aura that yells at us for not being in Moonkin form. So we're going to call the aura Moonkin form. And enter, and okay, so we have a name. I personally like to start with the load conditions for my auras, because as this is an aura specific to Boomkin, I don't want it coming up when I'm in Resto, because it will never clear. I don't have Moonkin form in Resto, and so if it's always telling me to get into Moonkin form regardless of what I'm doing, then it'll just never go away. Likewise, I don't want it to yell at me out of combat for not being in Moonkin form, because if I'm not in combat, it's not important. If I am in combat, however, it's really important, given the fact that being in Moonkin form increases damage dealt by 10%, obviously with your arcane and nature spells, but as a Boomkin, all of your spells are one of those schools. Increases your armor by 200%, and it grants 550 mastery to all party and raid members within 100 yards. None of these are bonuses that you want to lose. So, we're going to say, in combat, where it's important, we're going to load this aura. Now, I could set it up to only show up for Nan on Scarlet Crusade, but I don't want that, because I want to be able to share this aura with my friends, and I want to be able to maybe use it on maybe a Moonkin I have on another server. I happen to have a Horde Druid who's also level 100. So if I wanted a reminder for her, then I just leave those fields blank. So I'm going to say player class, though, because only Druids can be Moonkins. I don't need to be told on my rogue to get into Moonkin form. That would be stupid. And likewise, only balanced Druids have Moonkin form, so we're going to say only show it to me in balance. And you can get more detailed than that, even, you know, if you have specific talents selected, specific races, player level. So if you don't want to show this stuff on, I think Moonkin form is given to you as soon as you choose Moonkin spec now, but back in the day you used to be like 40 before you got Moonkin form, so that might be relevant. You would set it to only show it on a player level over 40. Honestly, now you'd still set it to only a player level over 10. If you wanted it to be specific to a zone, or if it was something, you know, you can get really, really detailed with this, but again, these are not necessary right now. So now we're going to say, what do we want it to trigger on? So your trigger type is probably going to be an aura. Auras are things like your buffs and your debuffs, which is mostly what you're probably going to be tracking with these. You can have it track other things, but again, that's much more advanced, and we're not going to use the full scan because also much more advanced. So we're going to set which aura is it going to look for. So we're going to say Moonkin form. You say okay. And look, it's got the icon now. That's actually going to go away because for some reason it clears itself when I set some of these settings up, but whatever. I know how to fix it, and I'm going to walk you through it, so it'll be fine. Now, because we're looking for it on us, so we're going to say the unit is the player, because we're not checking other people for it, but you do have that ability. And this is a buff, not a debuff, so we're going to leave those two things alone. And we're going to say to activate when the given aura can't be found. Now, I don't know why that makes the icon go away, but it consistently does. So we're going to go back to display, and we're going to say that we want to choose the display icon. And it already is set to spell Force of Nature, which is the name of the Moonkin form icon for some strange reason. So we're going to say, okay, we want that. Okay, maybe it's not properly set. So we're going to search for Moonkin, and we're going to tell it again, yes, we want spell Force of Nature, and it's going to take this time. Fantastic. And now for the actions. What do you want it to do when it can't find that buff? When this aura is activated, what is it going to do? So you have the option to send a message to a certain chat channel. So if you were to create a chat channel to remind yourself to do things, you could do that. I feel like if you're going to set up an aura, though, it doesn't really make much sense to do that because you're setting up this aura to draw your attention to something. The last thing you want to do is need to draw your attention back to chat. So I am very keen on binding sounds to my auras, because if it's something that I thought was important enough to create a weak aura to draw my attention to, I want a sound notification too. And Blizzard kind of agrees with me here. If you've ever paid attention to your proc notifications, there's always a sound and a visual. What we're really doing here is we're creating a better sound and visual than Blizzard initially does. So there are a whole boat ton of options inside of WeakAuras. I would really love to be able to just set it to be the Moonkin noise, but I don't feel like looking for it right now because I'm trying to make a point here. So we're going to go with the wolf howl. Short, sweet, and to the point. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to... Oh, and we're also under actions, we're going to say we want the button to glow. So this is going to be like, you need to hit this button. Come on, push the button. So we're going to say show glow. And we're going to select what we want to glow. Now, normally your mileage would vary on this because my UI is very heavily customized. And I use Bartender for my abilities. But because this is the stance bar, it's not going to be as heavily customized. Typically, the stance bar for Druid will say BT stance bar button whatever. In the case of Moonkin form, it's button 4. So if you are also using Bartender, my add-on will be my aura will be transferable to you. If you're not using Bartender, you'll have to make some customizations. And even if you are using Bartender, you may wish to make some customizations, but it won't be necessary. So we're going to set that to be the thing that glows, and then we're going to shift back out of Moonkin form. But it's selected that button as the one that it's going to light up. And so when we hide it, we're going to tell it also to hide the button glow on our Moonkin form, because we don't need that to be glowing forever. Although the glow actually should be overwritten by being shifted into Moonkin form, but that's neither here nor there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to close out WeakAuras, and we're going to shift into Moonkin form so that you can see what my UI usually looks like when I'm in combat. So I'm just going to zap the dummy once, just for the sake of pulling things up. So here you can see in the center my Star Surge notifications. I've got my balance energy bar that was right up here. Again, created by Chubby Boomy. But I didn't get my notification because I was in Moonkin form, so no problem. So now we're going to shift out of Moonkin form. And you can see here by the fact that I'm resting that I am not currently in combat. And so we're going to go ahead and zap the dummy again. And you notice it howled at me and it popped up my little Moonkin icon because I'm not in Moonkin form. Zap it again and shift. See, it's also lit up like we told it to. Shift into Moonkin form and it's gone. So there you have it. Very simple, very basic aura, just to remind you to get into Moonkin form. Obviously, you could take and apply this to much broader things than simply making sure you're in the correct form. But I needed something really simple to start with so that there wasn't the complexity of, wait, well, you know, why do I need to track this particular thing? I just wanted something that was real simple, real basic. And hopefully that's maybe demystified WeakAuras a little bit. Um, like I said, it's really not as daunting as it looks. There are just a lot of options. So play with it or don't, but I really do recommend it, and don't don't be scared to poke at it until something happens. If you have trouble with it, pick other people's brains. There are a few other people that use it. Meech and I do a lot of custom stuff. Sorry about the bus, Meech, but whatever. You're a mentor. You can handle it. Um, but so I can't guarantee that we'll be able to help you with something super complex and Lua based, but we've also got a lot of people who are pretty knowledgeable about computers. Someone can probably help you. And you know what? If the watch can't, there are lots of threads on various forums that discuss it. I'm sure MMO has got some active threads. I know they've got some dead threads because I've grabbed auras from them. I know Icy Veins has got a couple of discussions. Crazy Ito for a while was actually hosting a Ask Me Questions About WeakAuras thread, which is where I got the res monitor from. So there are resources out there, but I figured that something very basic and accessible was missing from this conversation. So I fixed it. Sorry if I rambled. I didn't take the time to write up a script for this because I'm not real good at sticking to them anyway. So this was literally off the cuff. This was like take 17 or so. But I hope you found it helpful. And maybe I'll be back with more later. Otherwise, I'll see you guys around.